So today marks the end of the 7 series technical training. Um, After we end today, I'm going to show you where you can go in the future to access the recordings if you or your employees, or if you're a manager, if you have employees that want to watch the training series at any point. This last session won't be edited and uploaded for probably a few days, but all the other recordings are here in our resource center. So today we're going to talk mostly about the dashboard, which is what you're looking at right now. I want to focus heavy on new employee training and a simple step-by-step for new employee training done right through the dashboard. And then we're going to talk about just ongoing management using the dashboard and the importance of you and your managers learning how to manage processes with the support of all these tools on the dashboard. Before we get into that, though, I'm just going to go over some of the technical aspects of the dashboard. It's pretty easy to maneuver, but I just want to highlight a few of the technical things that might get you stuck. Also, you can always go here to where it says need help in the bottom right corner there. That icon is always there inside of your account. And through here, you can search for anything that you're trying to remember how to do, something that I said. You can look at just main topics right here. Like this is the My Employees section, which is, this section right here. Here's a little video on Scribe. My processes, that's this section right here. So this will allow you to kind of toggle back and forth from our resource center if you have questions. There's also one on process assignment, which we're going to talk about today. And then in addition, there's a video there on process assignment for employees. So if you want your employees to kind of understand what it means when they get a notification and what to do, there's a video for that right here as well. Okay, so these sections appear, the role that's assigned here and these people under my employees, they appear on the dashboard through account administration. So if you go over here to user accounts, and this is just a reminder, you've all seen this already. You can go to an employee and under this section, you assign them their position. So you just hit this little edit pencil and you can see here that I'm the office manager. I have a management assignment for office manager and it's in red right here. That's why I know that. What that does is it gives me access to all of these people, anyone assigned to these roles inside of my employees on the dashboard. So that's what this a management assignment means. It means that I have been made the manager, and then that gives me access to go into the processes for all of the employees listed below me. The person with the highest level access, like president or chairman of the board, has access to everyone. So anyone with this top box assignment would then be able to see inside of the processes for every employee in the entire company. All right. So once the My Processes position has been assigned, typically it's one position, but there could be multiple if you've built a future organization chart and you're having people fill those boxes in the future. And in the current situation, they fill multiple boxes. So here's an example of that. Patricia here, she's the receptionist, but she's also the human resource assistant. So you see her name twice here. When she logs in, she's going to see 2 positions here under My Processes. When there's multiple positions assigned, I always like to see a hire date because the idea is that Patricia is going to fill both of these roles temporarily until the business has grown to the point where we can hire a full-time human resource assistant. And the goal would be for Patricia and her manager to document all the processes for this position here so that when Q4 rolls around, we have training for this new position. If you set it up this way and you've put people in multiple roles and you look at it and you think, gosh, we're not going to grow that much in the next year or so, then combine the positions. So go to your organization chart, Maybe you decide we aren't financially able to hire a human resource assistant for the next 2 years or for the next year. I think anything under a year, it's reasonable to have the position there, but anything over that, combine them. So take the work of this position and fold it into this one, or take it and fold it into this one. So the future organization chart is a great idea. It's really motivating. It's showing you where you're going in the future, but you can overdo it. You can put way too many positions to where it just makes it more complicated than it needs to be. Let's go back here. So when I click my position here under my processes, if you haven't created groups, you're going to see everything on what's called the default list. So the default list will be collapsed, and when you click on it, all of the processes will appear. If you see that for any of your employees, especially for yourself, fix it right away. So to fix it, you go and create groups like this, create group, edit group, delete group. So these are groups that I've made. And then you simply drag and drop processes from one group to another. So it's super easy. I just drag from here to here, and then it's in this group. I can hit expand collapse to open all of the groups here. I can even reorder my groups just by dragging the groups up and down. So what these groups do for you is they help organize the processes and make it easier to see. If everything just lives on the default list, then you've got this massive list, and it really overwhelms people pretty quickly. Building them into groups organizes them, makes people kind of see what categories they're going into. They're going to find things easier. So spend a few minutes to organize the processes into groups. Groups can be subject driven, like management, human resources, finance. They could be by activity, like things I do in the morning, or checklists. And they can be by timing, like end of the year or first of the month. Depending on the position, the types of group subjects, can change depending on the structure of that position. So I won't go through this because it's so straightforward. Create group, edit group, delete group. Managers can also go in and edit the groups of their employees. So this is what it looks like when someone hasn't organized their processes. You see, it says default list. If I click the default list, I'm going to see all the processes here. There's a reasonable amount of processes here, but sometimes there's 3 times that amount, and it just gets to be this big, long, massive list. So this person needs to organize their processes, or I can do it for them as the manager. And then when Sandy logs in, she's going to see the groups that I've created. I kind of like the idea of the employees doing it themselves, because then, first of all, they're into TouchStone. They're becoming familiar with it. They're deciding, how do I want to organize my processes here? What categories make sense for me? So number one, organize the processes. To the right is where assignments will appear. So I don't have any assignments that are due. If I did, you would see the assignments listed here. And then once I complete assignments, they fall to this completed assignments list. So that's the next section when someone clicks on my processes. Going into one of these processes, I'm going to go here to this one. When I click a process, I can't edit or change anything here. This is just where I'm going to view it for training purposes, or if I'm using it in some way. So there's typically 2 reasons that an employee would come here to the dashboard. If they're being trained, or if they need to review or use something. So training is just simply looking through the content here. So if I'm a new employee, I would read this work plan. I would read the second work plan. I would study it. I might practice it. I'd go and look at any documents or forms that are here. I'd familiarize myself with this agenda form. I might refer back to the work plan on how to fill out that agenda form. So I'm studying this. If there were videos in here, I would watch those. And as I do that, I can complete them. So I could go here to this first work plan. And if my manager has asked me to, once I've reviewed this and studied it and gone through it, I can save it. And now it's date and time stamped, and there's a the action is recorded that I've reviewed this, then my manager can go over here and run a report and make sure that I've done that. So we're going to go through this again when I talk about new employee training, but I just want you to see the idea that when someone comes here, they're viewing it, they're studying it, they're learning it, and they can also save that as a flag or an indication that I've looked it over, that I've finished it. If there's something that can be completed in this process, I would go to that, like this agenda form. And now I'm preparing for a meeting that I'm going to have with one of my employees. And I type, these fields are all live now. This is a custom form. And I fill out this form preparing for the meeting, and then I save it, and TouchStone date and time stamps it and saves a copy back to the system. Once I save it, there's a PDF that's generated right here. So I can click this and download this somewhere else or print it. So when employees come here, it's going to be for training purposes where they're learning, studying, memorizing, practicing, or it's going to be if they need to complete something like a document or a checklist or a form. This breadcrumb trail above here will always get you back to where you started, and that saves extra clicks of having to go back to the dashboard. What else? Everything is drag and drop here. You just grab these little wheels and then I can pull this up and down. I can also drag and drop the processes inside of a group just by pulling up and down. I can move them from one group to another just by pulling up and down. Okay. Now just some technical points about my processes or my employees section. So if I'm a manager, I'm gonna see this section called my employees. Through here, this is where I keep training notes and information, and it's where I review things that my employees are doing. It's where I verify that things have been done. So looking at just one employee here, if this was organized into groups, I would see the groups listed. So here I can go into each process, like this collections process, and I could look to see in the notes field over here or in the saved work plans area if she's actually done this work. So you can dive into these processes and see a lot of information like how that employee's been marked as trained or any notes that have been made. But really, the best way to do this is to go over and run a My Employee report. So again, I could go here to the dashboard as the employee and I could go into each of these sections. I could make assignments. I could look at the training, look at what they've done, or I could just go over here to my employee reports. I could give a date range just by clicking the calendar. Very easy. I could search the save as for something I'm looking for. I can hit and look just for Sandy's information, or I can go and look for all employees. I could search by process tool type. And then when I hit run report, and there's probably not going to be anything here because the dates, oh, there is. I see all the work that my employees have been doing. So this is where Jackson has gone in and completed this KPI form. This is where he's gone in and completed this document called dispatching a call. So I see the dates and the times over here to the right. So my employee reports let you dive into each of the employees sections or my processes, their roles, and see what they've been doing. Okay, so let's talk about new employee training. So if I had to condense this down into a nutshell, the dashboard is used for number one, new employee training, and number two, ongoing management, which is a big category, I know. So new employee training one, and the second reason is for ongoing management. New employee training typically starts when the employee's new, and then they go through the whole training, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. And then they're kind of finished with the training. And then that's when the management starts. So once an employee has gone through their new employee training, they may or may not need to log into TouchStone every day to look at what they're doing. Once they've learned it, they've memorized it, they're doing it well, then you may not require them to come in and have it open while they're going through it. But then the management starts. So the manager's role is to manage processes by which employees get results. So that's it. The manager is there to manage processes that the employees use to get results. I would even go as far as to say the manager's not there to manage employees and their personalities and what they're doing right or wrong and their schedules and what they like and don't like. They're there to manage processes that the employees get results by using. So if you believe that statement, you think it's good, managers are here to manage processes that people use, then it's really important to make sure the processes exist, right? And that they're good. So by implementing this management philosophy in your business, by default, you're going to then create a process dependent business because your managers are there to manage processes by which people get results. In other words, they can't manage anything unless there's a process, which is the reality of it. So this single idea, I think, can really shift things for your managers and for yourself and for the business overall. If you set the stage with that concept, then everyone's going to be asking, well, where's the process? Where's the process? Is the process good? We're going to start naturally not blaming people and what they're doing or not doing and whether they're doing it right or wrong. We're going to start blaming the process. So why is the process wrong? You will inevitably run into this situation where people aren't following the process. And then you can say, hey, what we need you to follow the process. I'm going to assign this to you. I'm going to give this to you again. But it's always the blame's always going to fall to the lack of a process. Your managers will learn to delegate rather than advocate accountability. They can only delegate if there's a process for it. So let's talk about how this actually looks day to day. So we hire a new employee. Let's use Sam here. So I'm going to, as the manager, or if you're a larger company, you may have an HR person. That person is going to go through regular kind of new employee training onboarding. And there's a process for it right here. And you can find this in the library. So I want to separate the idea of this from what we're about to talk about. So this HR person or the manager, if you're a smaller company, would go, to this custom form here and prepare for the new employee to arrive. I'm going to send them their welcome letter. I'm going to make sure they have access to all of our software. I'm going to get them business cards. I'm going to go through all this HR kind of setup stuff. So this is not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about onboarding in TouchStone. Yes, this is important and this has to be done, and there could be a process for it in TouchStone, which really keeps the person doing this on track and make sure that they get everything covered before the employee even starts. So the manager goes in and does all this. They tick off these boxes as they do it. They save this as Sam, and now that's in TouchStone. They get the start date. Now, if anybody ever wants to know, did Sam get all the stuff that he needed to have a successful first day, they can go and run a report here, that my employee report, and make sure that this checklist was done. So that has to happen clearly. Then what happens is the on-the-job training stuff. So HR stuff's over with. Now we're going to train Sam. We're going to bring him on with this wonderful experience of his first day, get him going, let him see all of our bright and shiny processes, and lay out a training plan for him. So the manager simply goes to Sam here in TouchStone, and this is one way of doing it. You take all of Sam's work that's on his position. So all of the work is listed here through the org chart. Therefore, when he's assigned this role, he's not assigned the work, he's assigned this role, customer support. He then sees all the processes that are related to his position in customer support. We organize them into training weeks. So you could create a group here and call it training week 1. Then I create a second group and I call it training week 2, 3, 4. Depending on the position, it could be 6 months of training. It could be a year of training. It could be a month of training. So you need to decide, what is the training period for a new employee in that role. If you don't know, then make a guesstimate for it. And then the first time you take an employee through this, you will know. So think about that, the minimum competency level of the person that's filling this role. Think about the work that they need to learn, and that should be pretty evident and clear if you've identified all the processes. You don't even need to have documented all the content yet for this to work. You just need to list the processes that the customer support person is responsible for. Documenting it all obviously is better, but even if you haven't done that yet, just still do this kind of exercise for new employee training. So I'm going to expand this. So what you're seeing is all of the employees' processes organized here under weeks. Ideally, I would look at these processes and I would think, okay, how long is it going to teach me to train Sam on or a customer service person to do the daily to-do list? It's probably not that long. Um, how long will it take me to train them in the KPIs for customer service? So this is determining the KPIs and then filling out the form quarterly or whatever it says. Daily planning. How long is it going to take for me to teach him this? Probably not that long. Customer complaints. Well, there's a hefty process, right? So that may take 4 or 5 days. So you get the idea. You're trying to put a time frame to each of these processes and organizing them into the weeks in which they'll occur. You could have processes that go into this category of ongoing training, like things that I'm going to teach him about the end of the year quarter checklist, but this is something we're going to do ongoing. So the training goes on and on with it for an extended period of time. So you could pull processes that are more in that league and put them down into an ongoing training section if you think that's important. So at the end of the day, we have all the processes organized into training weeks. Then what I would do is I would go to the first process and I'd click this checklist and I go and assign it to Sam. So there's a couple different ways to assign. When you're on a process, I could assign the whole process just by clicking this icon. You can also do it from the dashboard, but we'll go over that in a second. So I'm on this process. I'm thinking about daily to-dos, and I'm going to assign the whole process to him. For new employee training, that would be what you would do. Another option is to go and just assign the checklist. Now, this process only has a checklist in it, so this isn't a great example for that. But your other processes may have multiple checklists or multiple work plans. And so you do have the ability to go here and just assign that one checklist in the process or just assign that one form. So you hit this assignment window. This is week 1, right? So let's say he's starting on Monday. So I'm going to have him do this right on Monday. First thing, I'm going to send him a notification, and then I'm going to put in notes right here, guiding him a little bit. Hey, this is the daily to-do checklist. I want you to review this. I want you to practice filling it out. I'm going to come by from 2 to 3 every day to check in on you, and we'll go over it. Whatever the situation is, you hit assign. And so now that checklist has been assigned. Then I would go to the next tool in the week, KPIs. And then I would again think to myself, when is he going to learn this? So I hit assignment, I go here, I choose the right day. Maybe I want him to do that on Tuesday. And there may be other things going on in his training where he's shadowing someone or he's sitting in on meetings, whatever it is. But these processes you would assign, somewhat with some thought to what day of the week they're going to happen in. And then I go to the next one. So I'm going to assign this whole first week. What's happening is Sam is then getting notifications saying that you have these processes assigned to you. And when he logs into TouchStone, he'll go to those and complete them. And then I will get a notification back saying that he's completed them. Another thing that needs to happen on the first week or the first day is all of this needs to be assigned. So the public processes, if you've done this correctly, and if you haven't, you can change it pretty easily. This is the new employee training in a sense. There's the on-the-job training, which is what we were doing over here, where we're thinking, what are these activities that I'm going to assign to him to learn? But this is all content that he needs to know as a new employee. So there's welcome to the company. So inside of this, you have, a little welcome video, or you have your company message and the company story. You could have your mission, purpose, values. So this is saying what you believe in, what the business is about. This is very important. Company non-negotiables. So a list of things that are in fact non-negotiables for processes, for in the office, for attitude, for on the job site, for customers. Then you could have the management philosophy, which I think is really important. So this is saying this is what we believe in as managers. This is how we strive to manage our employees. Company software how-tos. So this is a list of all the software that the business uses. And then there's links into it, possibly to Adobe Project Manager, a link to their resource center. Or if you have a CRM, there could be a link to the CRM training center right here. So even though your software tools may have really great training, which is laid out really well, inside of TouchStone, you could make links to that so that they're knowing exactly where to go and what to do and what to focus on. This is pretty general, but if you did have a CRM that had really great training, you could highlight the top 5 things that everybody does in the CRM and then create links to how to add a contact, how to run a report. And then those links could be here in TouchStone. So what's happening when you do this is you're building a way to track that the employee has done that, and you're building a really clear way for them to know exactly where to go to learn about all of your company software. You can have things like this, employee satisfaction surveys. So this is like a general employee satisfaction survey, maybe something we do annually right before the performance review. We ask for feedback from employees if they have a complaint or a suggestion. So this is where they can literally go into the custom form, into these forms and fill out the form and submit it. You can have guide to company benefits, so like HR kinds of things, like how do they update their W-9 forms and all of that important stuff. Employee handbook definitely belongs here. So an employee handbook, it's typically a PDF that's been uploaded. An employee can go here, view the manual, and then put their name here, and then add a note that they read it. So you would advise people on how you want this done. Now, this isn't DocuSign, but it is an indication that the employee has reviewed the employee handbook. You could have them download the handbook, sign it, scan it, the signature page, and re-upload it, and then that could be put in TouchStone. That's definitely something you could do. One more thing about this employee handbook. A handbook is really great, but it's a long manual full of information. So if you have areas of your handbook that come up later down the road when an employee's been with you for a while, or they tend to be hot spots for certain departments, you can isolate them into the document tool. So I have just employee work rules, I have employee appearance. So these are items from the handbook, but I've just pulled them out and put them into a document like this one. When you do this, it makes them focus more, because then I know they're going to read through these and I'll make them save it. If someone's violating the employee work rules, you can go to this process and assign it to them. Rather than assigning them the whole handbook, you could focus specifically on what it is that they're doing and then assign it this way so that they're just getting that section. What else? Important management things like warnings. So what happens when employee gets a warning? So this is a step-by-step for that. A lateness, if that is an issue in your industry, you have a policy for that. Time off and vacation request, also really important. So this is your onboarding. This is like the company onboarding. This is giving them, all of this information that they have access to all the time because it's always on the dashboard. But when they're new, you're specifically saying, go in and review all of this. So there's a quick and easy way to do that with a new employee. So if I wanted to assign all this to Sam for his first day or his first week, maybe I give him a week to look it all over. I hit this assign button on the dashboard, and then I go to the employee. I go to Sam right here. And then these are all his processes that can be assigned. But for the public processes, I can go select all. Now it's assigning all of them to him. And I would give a reasonable due date. So maybe it's the last day of his first week. Send a notification, put in a note from yourself, hit assign. So now it's just instantly assigned him all of these public processes. If we go and look now under Sam here through my employees, we're going to see all of his assignments here and the due dates. If you have a lot of public processes, like more than I've highlighted here, you could do it in sections. You could assign him the first 10 for the first week and the next 10, and then create, all the assignments. Once I've assigned all of these, I could look at this and say, oh, this is a lot for him all at once. So maybe I go hit this little edit pencil, and then I can change the due date on a few of them, like maybe make it a week later. I can adjust the notes, hit save. So once the assignment's made, if you want to make a change to it, you just hit this edit pencil and you can change the date. You can resend a notification and you can change the notes. You could also delete it. So what we've done first is we've assigned all the public processes in his first week. We've then gone and assigned all the processes in week 1. So let's log in as Sam here. Oops, and I'll show you what this looks like. So this is that exact account. I'm just going to refresh it. So when Sam logs in his first week of training, he's given an introduction to TouchStone just like you would all the other software that you have. He logs in. First thing I want you to notice is this is kind of cleaned up for a read-only user. I can go as a read-only user to the organization chart here. I can view the chart, but the only box that's illuminated is this one because that's the only one I have access to. You've all seen this before, but I just wanted to make that point. There's no 4 key functions because Sam doesn't have any reason to go there. The need help is always here. The resource center is always up here. So if we go back to the dashboard here, the first thing Sam's going to be trained to do is click his My Processes, and then he's going to see all his assignments over here. So he sees week 1, week 2, he sees it all, so he can take a look at what the overview of his training for the first month is going to be. And then he goes and starts completing processes. So to complete it, he's just going to select it. This is the daily to-do list. And he's going to look through it and study it. He could even fill this out. He can look at the links here, like on that say links to processes. When he's read it and studied it, he just hits save and complete. He can also put notes in the notes field. That's what that reminder was. It was saying, you're not saving this as anything. Do you want to put notes in? So now that's been completed. So he goes back and that's followed to the completed assignments. So it's just methodically going into each of these, reviewing them, studying them, watching the videos, walking through them, leaving notes if he has questions or issues. Once all these are completed, again, they fall all the way down to this completed assignments window. If one of the due dates is passed, and I can't do it here. I'm going to go into this other account. You're going to see if one of the due dates has passed, you're going to see a red icon appear. So let's make a due date passed. So on the dashboard, the window goes from, or the icon goes from blue to red, and I have to log in and out for it to click, but this is the icon I'm talking about. So when an assignment is past due, the manager is going to see it show up in red, and then you'll know that your employee has missed an assignment. Employees can go and run reports of what they're doing as well. A good way to understand this more fully is to like set up an employee and then make some assignments, then log in as them and take a look at what it looks like. But I think it's pretty straightforward. So this is new employee training. And the idea is that they're getting all the public processes, all that great important company information, and then they're being guided through the completion or the learning of all of their processes. Now, let's say that you set up this new employee training and you have a lot of red processes here. So ones that aren't fully documented. That's okay, in my opinion. And what I would do in that situation is have the manager work with the employee to actually document it as they learn it, or at least put a skeleton to it of some kind. They're probably already doing this anyway. Employees are probably furiously making notes about things as they're being taught. They're putting it on sticky notes, they have their binder. It's probably been done 100 times in your company by 100 different employees. Make it different this time. Say, okay, we're going to make maybe you the owner of this customer complaint process. Even Sam, a brand new employee, we're going to make you the owner of the daily to-do list. So your job is to learn how to do it and make sure the documentation is fully put together. Now, there's certain employees and positions that you can't do that with just because the minimum competency isn't there. But a lot you can. And I think if you raise your expectation, then people come to meet it. So remember that if the process isn't fully documented, then it doesn't matter. Have at least the manager start breaking out the steps of it. Have them fire up a loom while they're talking to the employee about it, or go through a scribe as they're talking about it. Make notes, add those notes to TouchStone, anything to get some amount of the documentation down as the employee is learning it. This is why I say, or I've said before, that these position descriptions here, these lists of processes here through the four key function, through the org chart, this is the same thing that Sam's seeing on his dashboard, but I'm just making the point here. This is one of the most valuable tools you'll ever have for employee training and accountability, clarity, ownership, organization. And it's because this is a comprehensive list of what I do. This is what they do. At least you've got that list down. Otherwise, it's just this jumbled set of ideas that someone's watching someone else do. So creating these lists and going through these, even if they're all red, I think is a valuable exercise. So let's say that Sam here has gone through all of week one. And so I see here in the completed section that he's finished week one. We've been talking about it. You know, some positions, it might be okay just for them to read through all the processes in TouchStone and practice it and they're good to go. But most of the time, the teacher, who's the manager, needs to teach, right? They need to say, let's look at this together. Let's go through this together. Watch so-and-so do it. So once I feel confident that Sam has finished his week one, I go to the process and I mark him as trained. I can go individually and mark as trained, or I can mark all of the tools inside this process as trained. I could even go and create notes here. So that's a note that I've created. So to create a note, I just click on this and then you see the notes field. So this could be the time it really took him to do that. So it took him 1 hour to learn this. I could put, issues that he's still having. And then when I save this, it's saving this training note back to TouchStone. And when I go to the tool in TouchStone, I can see the note right here in the notes section. So, but the biggest deal is this train check mark. And then what happens is I will then see the train check marks and Sam will also see them. He'll see that this green check has been ticked off. So the idea is that all of week one, I'm ticking this off. He did this. I can do it as I'm training him or as he completes the assignment, or I can do them, all at the end of the week. Now, let's talk about tests then. So ideally, he would learn all of this, and then I would mark him as trained, and then he would take a test on it all. This is the best way for people to learn. And I think if you think back to your education, college, or whatever school you've been to, there's this constant of here's the textbook, the teacher's going to lecture you, then you take a test. So Touchstone implements that just like an educational system does. So the textbook is all this content. The teacher is the manager. I'm going to teach you. And then you could take a test. Sometimes the test can be, I'm just going to watch you do it while you do it. Or you could have a more formal test. So there's a couple different ways to do this in Touchstone. One is that you could put a test inside of every process. So if we go here to this customer complaints, right down here in the custom form tool, there's a test. So the employee could go here to the test. It gets assigned to them, obviously. They get the assignment once they've been through all the other processes or the tools in the process. It's time to take the test. And they go and fill out the test, save it. Or another way is you can have tests by week. So you could build a process and call it customer support week 1 tests. And then as the employee, when I click here, I'm going to see all the tests that I need to take at the end of the week. So again, 2 different ways to do this. And I really think it depends on the role, what's the best. If it's feasible that every process has a test, then having the test inside the process seems like it's more streamlined. Like I learn it all, then I take the test. I learn it all, then I take the test. If there's just a few tests related to the process they learn in that week, then you can build it this way, where you've got a process called customer support week 1 tests, and then you build all the tests inside of here. So when Sam logs in to take the test, it's the same. So now we're back in Sam's account. And I'm at the end of my week 1. I see all these little satisfying green check marks. Then I go to the tests and then I take them. So this is the customer complaint, new employee test. These fields are all live now, so I'm filling this out. When you're building tests, I think open-ended questions are really great because it gets the employee to think. Multiple choice. I mean, it's okay, but it's better when you're forcing them to think about it. So he goes through and takes the test and saves it. If he was given an assignment for the test, which is the way you'll do it, he'll see the assignment over here, and it will be the last week of the training week, the last day of the training week. If he gets to the end of the training and isn't ready to take the test, you can just adjust the date. So that's new employee training in a nutshell. So let's talk about a few things that this gives you as a manager. Number one, it gives you control over the training. So you build it by week and you follow it and the employee follows it. You're creating the time that it takes. So ideally, when you have a process-dependent business and managers are managing processes, they should be able to tell you, if we hire this apprentice tech, it's going to take us a month to move them up to junior. And once they're junior, it's going to take 3 months to move them up to senior. It's going to take us 90 days to fully train a customer support person. So what these times give the business owner, the owner of the asset, is it gives them the cost of training, which is invaluable information. You use that for budgeting. You use that for the balancing of sales and operations. So ramping up sales and making sure you got enough people over here to do the work, enough fully trained people. It helps for management decisions that might be hard because I could have a failing customer support person or someone who's constantly making mistakes as the bookkeeper, but I'm overwhelmed myself. I just can't fathom the idea of trying to hire a new bookkeeper right now. I'd rather live with that person's mistakes. But if I know that I can get a fully hired bookkeeper in 60 days and it's going to cost $10,000, then I can make that decision more confidently. So it helps for budgeting and financial planning. It helps for scaling and growth, but it also helps a manager on a very fundamental level because they have the confidence to know that I'm not dependent upon that person. I've given it my best shot in managing processes. This person should never have been hired in the first place. So now we're going to hire a new person. It also helps with those decisions early on. Because if I hire Sam here and I assign all these processes for the first week, and he gets to the end of the week and he's still making mistakes and hasn't learned it all, maybe I give him another round of training for another few days to see if he can handle the customer complaint mistakes he's making. He still can't do it. And then I might say, this isn't going to work out. And I'm not doing that because I don't like him or it's some subjective feeling I have. I've got really tangible evidence that says a competent person should learn this in a week. And he can't, he's not learning it. So we made a bad hire. We made a bad hiring decision. And he doesn't keep going through the ranks, even though we knew there were problems early on. All right. Let's talk about ongoing management. So new employee training is one thing. Um, and if you, and I've heard this hundreds of times from TouchStone users, if you do any kind of ongoing training like I just described, your new hires are going to be floored because this will be unlike any training they've ever had. So you're changing the company fundamentally by taking new employees through a better onboarding experience. Another key thing that's happening is that you're setting them up with a process mindset. So changing a culture that never worked with processes is one thing, but bringing a new employee on and setting them up with the right expectation at the beginning is just a breath of fresh air. Now, what happens is those new employees get poisoned by the old employees over time if you haven't changed your culture. So management with the dashboard, this ongoing management, is a way that you can change the culture. So what that looks like is when you've implemented new processes in TouchStone, and it could be something that your customer support people here have done for 100 years, but you've documented the process. Let's go to a different example. So you've documented the process in TouchStone. Nothing's fundamentally changing for this KPI for customer service process. You've just documented the step-by-step for it, and you've created this tracking form. You assign this to all the customer support people, and then you talk about it in a meeting. So you just simply go to the dashboard here. You just hit this assign button. You go to the position, customer support. You go to the process itself, the KPI process. And then I go select all. So I select all the customer support people. I give it a due date. And I say, hey, people, we're going to review this in the meeting on Monday. And then you assign. A few seconds to do that. Your meeting rolls around. You say, we're going to talk about the KPI process. We just implemented in TouchStone. I know you've been doing it for a long time, but let's just go through it. So you go as the manager, you open it up here in TouchStone. If you're doing this on a tailgate, you can print it out, you can show it on your phone, but you basically go to the process in TouchStone, you make sure people know where it is in their position, and then you talk about it. And then you're done. You can mark them all as trained and then go on to the next one. Next week, let's say you fully document the customer satisfaction process using AI. Same idea. Assign it to all of them, talk about it for 5 minutes in the meeting. So implement these processes with your existing employees similarly than that you would do it for a new employee. And all you're doing is verifying. You're saying, this is a new day for us. We're going to have all this great documentation. Let's go through it one process a week for the next 2 months. Then bring it up when you're managing your employees. So if someone's having a problem handling customer complaints, if they didn't turn in their KPI, call them out on it. Assign the process and say, hey, Jackson, this customer didn't understand X, Y, and Z, which should have been explained in the customer complaint process. Review the process for me and kind of tell me where it went wrong. Maybe we need to update the process. Maybe we don't. So use it to manage your employees. Do the opposite. If someone did really great with client satisfaction and you got a satisfaction survey back from a customer or a review that was really positive, you can even assign it to them and say, I really appreciate how you did this. This was great. You did this and this really well, and we got this great review. So the good and the bad, keep it balanced as a manager. Bring it up in a meeting and say, hey, Jackson did so great in the customer satisfaction. He followed the process really well. Tell us about it, Jackson. Have him discuss it. So use your processes to manage your employees. Have one-on-one meetings with them and go to their dashboards in TouchStone. Go to the list of their processes here and talk about what's going well and what's not going well. If a process hasn't been documented yet, assign an owner for that process and then work with them to get it documented. Go to here to need help and schedule an appointment with us and have us train Jackson over here on how to fully document a process. And then make him the owner of it so that he's responsible for innovating it all the time. If you don't do that, you don't assign an owner, the manager is the default owner, which is fine. A manager uses processes to manage. So they've got to be able to make sure the documentation is there eventually in order to manage that process well. Remember that not everything needs to be documented. So we're focusing on the top 20% that controls the 80% of what happens. So if you look at your dashboard here for an employee and you see 100 processes here, 100, that's way too many. You're not going to be able to control 100 processes for one role. So cut them down, combine things, decide what is really important to document. What is worth spending this time on? The time that you spend on your processes, by the way, is going to come back to you 1,000 times more. It's hard to get your mind around strategic work that day when you're so like that, when you're so busy with the doing it of your company, all the technical work, even the managerial work. It's very overwhelming. So it's hard to oftentimes when you have that mindset, it's hard to then say, okay, I'm going to spend 2 hours documenting this customer complaint process and not really see the reward of it until maybe weeks or months down the road. But believe me, when you build this once and for all, it's going to be something that is gold to you. It's going to be something that you rely on and produces real results. It's going to plug the holes in the bucket, and then it's going to start to replicate itself in how it produces results. So bring these processes to life for your employees. And any way that you do that is fine. It can be through assignment and communication through assignments. It can be in meetings where you have the process of the week, maybe, where you're talking about one process a month or a week. Spread it out. If you feel like once a week is too much, then make it a month. And over time, you're slowly going through these processes and kind of making them come to life. Get your employees involved in it. Always take their feedback. Always ask them, how's that going? How's the documentation? Did you add that to TouchStone? Let's make sure it's in there. So this idea of innovation, it should be happening all the time. It's not the kind of thing where we decide once a year we're going to innovate all the processes. It should be happening all the time if your managers are really using these as management tools. So there's a few handouts that I think I've given these to people before, but I put them in the chat this time as well. So this is just a handout on how managers use processes to manage. So it just goes through some of the big elements of that. So for training, delegating, measuring, coaching without micromanaging. Here's some terms without processes that you're likely to hear. Just figure it out. I'm going to repeat the instructions over and over again. I'm going to blame Jackson because he keeps messing it up all the time and he's always constantly confused. There's inconsistent work. There's micromanagement. This is the biggest one here. Then micromanagement, I would also throw that hoarding the work in there as well. It's where I think I can do it better myself, so I don't delegate it. And then when I delegate it, I'm just constantly all over you, making sure that you are doing it well. Well, if the manager has a need to do that with a process, I would say that process is definitely a part of the 20%, right? It must be really important. It must be customer facing. It must be related to income or money. It must be a process that has high value. So why not document it? And then you can start saying things like follow the SOP and Touchstone, train and reinforce the process. Um, let's think of the facts about this rather than my feeling about whether you did it right or not. Let's go through the tasks and really know. Standard execution, things are happening the same way all the time. And the manager feels empowered to hold the employees accountable. Because if you don't have processes, I think we all kind of get that edge feeling like, well, how can I really expect him to do this if I haven't fully trained him in how to do it? So this just goes through another kind of day-to-day use and real examples. Like for training, employees learn by following the processes, not guessing. Today, you'll complete the customer intake process in Touchstone and then check that off as you go. So delegation, performance, quality control. And then here's some kind of real examples for your managers on how they can manage processes. So instead of, why did you mess this up? The manager says, according to step 6 in the customer complaint process, this is what should have happened. Where did you go wrong? Instead of saying, we already talked about that. I already told you that last week. You say, there's a documented process in Touchstone that's going to show you. I'm going to assign it to you. Hey, and when you get it, if you don't understand or it's missing anything in your opinion, let's talk about it. Let's sit in a meeting and discuss it. Instead of, I guess I'll just do it myself, or no, I'm just going to do that myself because I'm really busy and I don't have time to talk to you about it right now. Here's the SOP, follow it, check off each step. And then here's a great um, manager's 3 process questions. So this is if the manager feels like they don't have the process, or they are questioning um, if they're questioning it at all. Great managers lead by asking, where's the process? Right? So if it's my job as a manager to manage with processes, my first question should always be, where is the process? And if you have a system like Touchstone, you're not in SOP chaos where the answer to that question could be, I don't know where it is. It could be in the F drive. It could be in Dropbox. It could be in my Loom video history. It could be in an email. Oh no, it's on my desktop. You're not in that SOP chaos. You know exactly where it is, and you can assign it according to role. Are you using the process? Are we using the process? So that's another really important question the manager should ask themselves and the employees. Did you use it? Are you using it? And does the process need improvement? So processes aren't going to be perfect all the time. They're evolving. And the more we add to them, the better they are. So if I see a problem with one of my employees and they have an issue following the process, I shouldn't just say, did you follow the process and stop there? Did you follow the process? You did? Well, let's take a look at it because maybe we need to improve it. Maybe we need to make it better. So managers don't manage people, they manage processes. Processes give people clarity. Managers give people leadership, and together they get consistent results. I just wanted to also throw this in the 1 minute we have left up at you again. This is the non-negotiables related to process dependency. So it has to be a non-negotiable. There needs to be a good balance of self-motivation, so employees who want to follow processes, and non-negotiables, where the expectation is it's mandatory. Now, I mean, clearly I'm a process lover, but I've never, and I've probably talked to 1,000 business owners in my 25-year career. I've never have not been able to get people to agree that it's better to have a process. That came out weird, but you get the idea. You can always motivate somebody. And it's because there's nothing bad about it. There's nothing bad about it. The only reason they're not doing it is their habit and too busy. Too busy, too busy, too busy. That's not good enough anymore. So you can talk to your managers who are the key to all of this and get them to see that this process management style is so much better. Oh my, it's so much better. It's such a relief. And the too busy idea just can't fly anymore because the business can't scale with that mindset. And on the employee level, it's much easier to not have to guess about what you're doing. We can weave in your best way of doing it and your nuances of doing it. Clearly, there needs to be a right and wrong, but the process doesn't need to be in opposition to people. So I think if you document something and you just throw it at the person and walk away, that's when you're going to get the resistance coming up. But if you sit with them and you talk about why it's so important, reasonable people can see it.